Welcome to this second chapter of Geeta Paniniyam. So, continuing our discussions further. So, hope you are all enjoying the website. So, there we have mentioned the different types of Sandhis. So, first in this, we are going to talk about Ach Sandhi. So, let us have a quick recap from the last chapter where we saw the various permutation combinations. So we discussed about Ach plus Ach. It is called Ach Sandhi or Swara Sandhi. So the notation used is A01, 02, etc. And the examples we saw was Pashya Eva, Sarve Eva, Tu Eva Aham. It became Tveva Aham. Similarly, we saw Ach plus Hal where there is no change. That is Dharmakshetre plus Kurukshetre. Then we saw Hal plus Hal with no change, which is Acharyan, Matulan, Bratran. Then we saw what is called as Hal Sandhi or Vyanjana Sandhi. We saw that as Hal Sandhi or Vyanjana Sandhi. So where we had different categories like H01, H02, etc., which is Sakin Statha. Then we have Tad is equal to Tad. Then we saw Makarasya Anuswaram, so Pandavanikam, Vyutham, etc. Then we also saw Hal plus Ach where there was no change. So Kim Akurvata. Similarly, Acharyam Upasangamya. These are some of the things we saw. Then in Hal plus Ach, we saw certain addition, Vishidan Idam. So we had Natva Dviktvam. And then we had Visarga Sandhi, Visarga plus Ach. So we had Dadrashtraha Uvacha, where there was actually a Visargam, which had become Laupam. And here we had Pandavaha Cha Eva. And we also saw Visarga plus Hal, where there is no change. So the Visarga remains as it is. Matulaha, Shvashuraha, Pautraha, etc. So in today's lecture, we are going to see specifically Ach plus Ach. This is what is the matter of discussion. So we will see A01, we will see the introduction to that. Then we will conclude with A01, A02, etc. will be taking in subsequent sessions. So now if you look at the Ach Sandhi, which is used in your Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, 2 and others as well, there are 6 categories of subclassification. The first subclassification is called Vriddhi Sandhi. Then the second classification is called Lopaha. The third classification is called Yana Sandhi. The fourth classification is called Dhirga Sandhi. Then we have got Guna Sandhi, and then we also have what is called as Purva Rupam. So we need to discuss all these 6 in depth, for which we will be looking in further classes. In this session, we will look at how Vriddhi Sandhi works. As I mentioned in my earlier lecture also, this is not as any chronological order. This order or index which is given A01, A02 is the order in which these Ach Sandhis appear in Bhagavad Gita. So the first type of Ach Sandhi which is appearing in Bhagavad Gita is Vriddhi Sandhi. That is why it is given as the first A01. There is no other specific reason for this notations. So now let us look at the various examples of Vriddhi Sandhi in chapter 1. I have pulled out all the Vriddhi Sandhi in chapter 1. So the first one we see is in the very first sloka. That is Pandavaha Cha Eva. I am not going to take it fully because it is actually 3 words. Pandavaha Cha Eva. So Cha and Eva is what Vriddhi Sandhi is all about, because the Pandavaha plus Cha is Pandavas Cha, which is Visarga Sandhi. So we have got Cha plus Eva, which is called Chaiva. So this word Chaiva is coming in Sloka 1, Sloka 14, Sloka 19 and Sloka 26. So if I decompose it, so all of us know Cha plus A is equal to Cha. So it is an halan, it is an akaranta shabdam. So Cha is an avyayam which is ending in A. So if you decompose it, this is called as halantyam. So Cha plus A. So Cha plus A is equal to Cha. Wherever we see any alphabet without the halantyam, it means akaram is in the end. So if I decompose, so cha is equal to cha plus a, then it is followed by a, is one example. Then we also saw pashyetam. So again, pashya plus etam. Similarly, we had pashetan, etam and etan. So both places, one is ekavachanam, one is bahuvachanam, but in both the cases, it is pashya followed by a. So a is etam, a, and again etan also it is a. So if you decompose it, it becomes yakarantam, ya halantam plus a plus a. Then we got Saumadattis Tathaivacha. Again, there are three words. We will only look at Tatha and Eva. It is actually Saumadattihi Visargam Tatha Eva. So we are looking at Tatha Eva is getting repeated in 8th sloka as well as 34th sloka. Again, if you decompose it, it is Ta plus Dirga A plus A. Then we have got Sahasevabhyahanyanta. Again, here three words. We will only look at the first two, which is Sahasa Eva plus Abhihanyanta. So that we will take it later. So Sahasa and Eva. Again, it is Sakarantam, Dirga A followed by A. Then we have got Hatvan Etan Atatayinaha. That is also again three words. We will look at the first two, Hatva Etan. So if you take Tva plus A plus A. And Narakaya, this is coming in sloka number 36. Then we have got Narakaya Eva, which is coming in sloka 42. So Narakaya plus Eva. So you have got Ya, then you have got A, then you have got A. So now if you look at all of these combinations, as far as Vriddhi is concerned, we are getting two scenarios. One is Haraswa A, and so what we call it as a precedent. So typically we call it in computer language is called precedent, and this is called antecedent. So if you look at the precedent, it is either Haraswa A or Dirgaha. However, the antecedent in all these cases is only A. So when you look at all these combinations, so summarizing it, whenever A plus A or A plus A comes together, there is a single substitute which is called as I. That is how you got Narakaya plus Eva became Narakayaiva. So wherever A, Raswa or Dirga A is followed by A, both A and Raswa and Dirga A and A is replaced by I. This is the first Sandhi, which is called Vriddhi Sandhi. Now let us enter into Paniniyam. If you are, before we enter into Paniniyam, we need to understand what is the concept of Panini is one word. If you ask me what is that one word, brevity. Whatever you communicate in a brief manner and in an effective manner. So brevity is the order of the day. If I write from olden days, even till today. So to give you an example of brevity, I will take an example which the new generation may not be aware of, which is the Telegram. This is not the new social media application Telegram. We are talking about the real Telegram which originated. So in olden days, we used to have this communication from one end to the other end through the Indian Post and Telegraph, which later went into BSNL. So when we wanted to say happy heartiest Diwali greetings to somebody, there was a code. So 1 means heartiest Diwali greetings, 2 means Eid Mubarak. Like that we had around 44 different codes. So when we used to have this telegram, we used to have what is called as input, process and output. So in the input, you used to have this form of a form which you have to go and fill up and give it to the BSNL or the Telegram department, where you will tell from address, to address, etc. So when you give the from and to address and the greetings, as I said, if it is Diwali, and the payment used to be always on per word basis, 25 paise or 50 paise based on express, ordinary, etc. So we used to use some notation. So as I said, Diwali means 1. Once this form is filled up, then there is a process. Suppose this telegram is going from Bombay to Delhi. So you have to mention all those forms, where, which telegraph office, all those things, and what is the message. So this was the message part. And then when this is given, it used to be communicated through what is called as a Morse code. And in the Morse code also, they don't type alphabet by alphabet. They have got something called dot, did, da, did. So each of them has got some notation. So M means da, O means 4 times. So da, did means N, da means O. So there is something called a notation. And finally, when the output comes, that output will not be in the form of clause number 1. It cannot be clause number 1. It will be written as Happy Diwali, whatever it is. So you see brevity in input. You see a different process. There is also brevity, and the output only is elongated. So this is a similar example where Panini also, in the Panini Sutra, he has also used how to communicate effectively and in a brief manner. Just like we have got Morse codes, the first step what Panini did was to bring in a class of short codes. So the first class of short codes was called the Maheshwara Sutrani. So it is I una, ri a I una, ri lik, e ong, I out, hayavarata, lana, namana nama, jabanja, gadadasha, jabagadadasha, kafachatata chatatava, kapaya, shashasara, hala. Again, here also, when we talk about ha, etc., it is halantyam, ya, var. But still, he has used akarantam for the purpose of ucharanartham. Ya, ma, nga, na, na. Similarly, ja, bha, sa, ga, dha, dha, ja, ba, ga, da, dha, ka, fa, cha, ta, tha, cha, ta, tha, va. Then we have ka, pa, ya. Then we have got sha, sha, sa. And then we have got ha. So now, if you remember, I called this Sandhi, which is called as ach Sandhi. So what do I mean by ach? So the short code ach. So Panini used the short code just like the Morse code. He uses the word ach. For me, the word ach means a, I, u, r, l, a, o, I, o. So in the Panini's notation, whatever is given in the pink should not be counted. It is only used for the purpose of creating the suffix. So whenever I say ach, it means a, I, u, I, r, l, a, o, I, o. Similarly, when I say hal, so it starts from this ha to this ha. So this means hal means it is all consonants. So ach means all vowels, and hal means all consonants, and al means all alphabets. Now, if he wants to say ik, he will use the word ik. When he says the word ik, it means I, U, R, L. He may also call it as ak, akasavarne dirgha. When he is calling of ak, it refers to I, I, U, R, L. So this is how ach means all vowels, an means a, I, u, ak means a, I, u, r, l, then h, it means a, o, I, o, vriddhirade, he will say. So by h, you should h, you must understand a means a, o, I, o. So this is the first type of coding which you all need to study and understand. So unless you understand these codes, you may not be able to proceed and understand Panini's language. So just like Morse code did, da, did, etc. The first step in understanding Panini is to understand this coding. And this coding, the entire 14 Maheshwarana Sutrani, you should be experts. And the moment we use each of these words or the at, hut, an, when we talk all this, you should be able to create your own group of words. That is the most important point. I have a detailed series on Laghu Siddhanta Kaumadi YouTube videos. Till now, around 10 parts are released. So if you want to do a deep dive and understand how this is working, you may refer to those videos. This is only a basic understanding. So I will not go into level 2 at this stage. So now the second class of groups of words is defined in the sutra itself. As you all know, Panini Sutra is all called Ashtadhyayi. It has got 8 chapters and it has got 4 padas, and each of the pada has got some sutras. So there are also a second type of codification which is defined in the sutra itself. So again, if I take Vriddhiradeit, this notation also is very, very important as far as students of Panini is concerned. It stands for first chapter. It stands for chapter, pada, and sutra number. So now, see, we have seen Vriddhiradeit. So he is giving a definition, a sutra. He tells Vriddhihi ad aich. Aich we just now saw, which is a, I and au is called aich. If you go back to the earlier slide, you see here aich is a, this is what is called as aich. Aich means I, au. So Panini in the second coding tells Vriddhihi at aich. So a, dirgha a or au is called Vriddhihi. These 3 alphabets are called as Vriddhi. So this is given in his first sutra, first pada, first chapter. The very next sutra also gives another definition, ad eng gunaha. Ad eng gunaha. So again you go back to see eng. Eng stands for a and au. So he has given one more classification above, over and above the Maheshwarani Sutrani, telling that a and a or au is called guna sanya. So this is how the 2 codings part of it you have to first understand. Once you understand this coding, then we go and try to understand Panini Sutra. It will be very meaningful. So if you classify the categories of Panini Sutra has been classified into 6 categories. Sanya cha, paribhasha cha, vidhir niyama eva cha, atidesho adhikarascha, shatvidam priti lakshanam. So this sutra which we have saw in 111 and 112 is example of Sanya Sutram. Now we will see going forward. Now let us come to our Vriddhiradeit. So what is the rule which makes a plus a is equal to I is what we need to derive it. It is like a mathematical formula. So how do I derive it? A plus a is equal to I as per Panini. One way is to just by heart it, that a plus a is equal to a plus a is equal to I, a plus a is equal to I, a plus a is equal to I. The second one is go into Panini Sutra, understand the logic of what Panini is saying. As we have already seen, a, and au is called Vriddhi. Now this is given by a superscript, as I said, this is called Sanya Sutram. Now we will see Vidhi Sutram. So now he is going to define a rule. Avarnad, the rule defined is called Vidhi Sutram, which is calling Vriddhirechi. There is only one sutra. So even if you look into my Bhagavad Gita website, when you hover next to A01, you will see Vriddhirechi. So Vriddhirechi is the rule by which A and A gets replaced by I. So what is this rule of Vriddhirechi? So we look at the explanation. Avarnad H Varnaha Pare Samhitayam Purva Parayoho Ekaha Vriddhiradeshaha Bhavati. So as I said earlier, you should have a precedent A or A. Then you should have an antecedent which is I. Echi Pare, Echi. So Echi is what, as I said here, A, O, I, Au. So the precedent should be A, Haswa or Dirgha. Then you have got antecedent, which is A or I or O or Au. 4 cases, as we saw, it's an or operator. So A or A followed by A or I or Au or Au. What is the result of such operation? By the rule Vriddhirechi, both the precedent and the antecedent is replaced by A, I or Au based on the Savarna. What is Savarna? We will see. So in this case, you just understand Pashya, as I said, is this plus A, this plus A, so A plus A. So A is Kantaha, what we call it as for understanding Tulyasya Prayatnam Savarnam. So we will not go into depth, it is called Kantam. So the way you pronounce A is Kantam and A is Kantoshtam. Similarly, I, Edaitoho Kantoshtam. So the most similar between A and Au is I. So Pashya plus Etam becomes Pashyetam. Similarly, you have got Ganga plus Ogaha. So O, Odautoho Kantoshtam. Akarasya, A is again Kanta, then you have got Kantoshtam. Both put together, you get what is called as Gangaugaha. So A, or to summarize, both places A, Raswa A plus Dirgha or Dirgha followed by A or I, it becomes I. Then you have got A or O followed by O or Au, it becomes Au. This is the first rule of Sandhi as far as Vriddhi Sandhi is concerned. So to summarize, if you look at this case, this is all scenarios. So there are two scenarios. Scenario one is A or I. Scenario 2 is O or Au. So if you look at Bhagavad Gita, you will get only scenario 1 maximum. Maximum cases will be scenario 1, that is A plus A is becoming I. So this is the first Sandhi. So whenever you see this, the first rule which should come into your mind for Panini, there may be many rules. You all have to remember the Vidhi rule is Vriddhirade. Vriddhirechi is the rule which you need to remember. So Vriddhirechi, by the Panini's rule of Vriddhirechi, A plus A becomes I. That is all you have to understand as far as A01 is concerned. In the next tutorial, we will see what is A02 onwards. Happy learning.